STEM science. Revolution, rotation, and tilt. What do these things do? I'll tell you. Rotation and revolution, even though they sound very similar, they are different. And we use them to describe motions of stuff like planets or moons. When we're talking about rotation of a planet or a moon, we're talking about this object spinning on an axis. Kind of like if you were spinning a basketball on a finger, that basketball is spinning on an axis. And when we're talking about it in terms of a planet, this is rotation. This is the Earth rotating, and you can see it's rotating on an axis. If you were to imagine this imaginary pole going through the top of this Earth here, it is spinning on that axis. This is rotation. Revolution is different. Revolution is like the movement of an object around another object. For those Olympic buffs out there, if this is the hammer throw, it's the hammer that revolves around the thrower. Or if you've ever played tetherball, you know that the ball just revolves around the pole. And similarly, if we're talking about the planet revolving around the sun, this is that motion of the Earth sort of going around the sun. Now, the same thing can also apply to the moon, which is also going around or revolving around the Earth. So when it comes to the planets in our solar system, the planets are revolving around the sun, or they are moving around the sun in their orbits. As they are moving or revolving around the sun, they're also rotating, spinning on an axis. Now, the 8 different planets in our solar system will have different speeds at which they rotate or spin. They will also have different rates in which they revolve or orbit the sun. And they will also have slightly different tilts depending on the planet. For example, planet Earth takes 365.25 days to revolve once around the sun, or to move around the sun once. It takes 24 hours for the Earth to spin or rotate one full rotation. Those numbers should sound familiar because basically one revolution around the sun is our year, 365 days. And the 24 hours it takes for that Earth, or our Earth, to spin once is the length of one day on Earth. Now for Mars, Mars takes 2 years to complete one movement or one revolution around the sun. And one rotation takes 24 hours and 39 minutes on Mars. So technically speaking, if you were to spend 1 year on Mars, it would be the same as 2 years on Earth. And 1 day on Mars is almost the same as Earth, just slightly longer, at 24 hours and 39 minutes. Now, let's be absolutely clear here. When I'm talking about 2 years on Mars is the year on Mars, we're not talking about some weird time travel-y thing. Basically, it just takes longer for Mars to move around the sun once. So as a result, 1 year on Mars, or one full revolution around Mars, takes twice as long for Mars as it does for Earth. So 2 years for us to have 1 year on Mars. Now for Venus, Venus actually takes 225 days for one revolution around the sun, or one orbit or movement around the sun. But it takes 243 days for just one rotation. That means, technically speaking, 1 day on Venus takes longer than 1 year on Venus. So that's it for rotation and revolution. And really, by understanding what these two different motions are, we can have a better understanding about what 1 day, or how long 1 day would take on Mars, or how long 1 year would take on Mars, or let's look at Mercury, or Saturn, or Neptune. And don't forget, moons can also rotate and revolve around planets. Just a heads up. That's it.